Ele é Dennis Hopper e se tornou uma lenda no mundo do cinema por uma vida que, como ele mesmo define, chegou ao fundo do abismo. Rebelde sem causa no início, sua carreira se consolida com o filme Easy Rider, um cult dos anos 70. Dennis mergulhou fundo em drogas pesadas e bebida e viu a cara da morte muitas vezes. Numa delas, foi encontrado sozinho em estado de coma numa perdida cidade do México. Com fama de louco demais, drogado demais, Dennis Hopper viveu durante uma década exilado aqui mesmo em Hollywood. Mas não morreu como seu amigo James Dean. Deu a volta por cima e sobreviveu para o segundo ato de sua vida. Com vocês, Dennis Hopper. You are such a multifaceted person. You are an actor, a director, a writer, a poet, a painter, a sculptor. Did I forget something? Now, what do you do best?
Roustabout? No. What do I do for fun? No.
No, best. Well, for
what do
fun.
I do
Well,
best?
yeah, for fun.
Best.
Why not?
No. Well, I hope I act well, you know, because that's where my income, that's my real job. You know?
Okay. And what do you do for fun? Everything.
Well, I found this weird thing, which I don't know how much fun it is, but I'm trying to play golf, which it's discouraging because no one does anything to you. You do it all yourself. No one serves a ball to you, or you know, it's just you and a little ball and trying to hit that ball.
And the hole.
And the hole. And it's very frustrating, but it's great. It gets me outside. I enjoy it. Challenge.
With Easy Rider, you became an icon of your generation. Were you aware of this?
Well, no, I don't know. An icon, I don't know what that means. It gets you a good table in a restaurant. You hopefully have money to pay the check at the end of it. When I wrote Easy Rider with Peter Fonda, I had wanted to direct movies for a long time. It was my first directorial job. And I also acted in it. I had great dreams of winning the Cannes Film Festival. Actually, I won Best New Director at the Cannes Film Festival. And I had dreams of having a big commercial success and giving new energy into films. These things happen.
Exactly what happened, yeah.
They happen. So I think every guy who directs his first movie wants these things to happen, has these dreams of them happening. They actually happened. So it was a very rewarding experience for me.
But you said that counterculture doesn't exist anymore. And why? What happened?
I said that? Wow. When did I say that?
One day.
Did I really? Okay. I don't know what I meant. I don't know what context I was talking.
Because no, Easy Rider was a movie. It was there was a whole contest in that time. Counterculture, something against the establishment. And nowadays you don't see this, do you?
Well, I mean, I've always thought that, like, through the years, I don't see it as clearly right now as usual, but I think there were the Bohemians. When I was young, they were what we called the Bohemians, and that was the artist community. And the artist community has always sort of rebelled against the establishment. From the Bohemians, they became the beatniks, and then the beatniks became the hippies, and then the hippies became the yippies, and the yippies became the yuppies, and then there was the punk movement, and so on. So generally there isn't, then there was the hip-hop and the rappers, and generally there's a movement somewhere, now they call it the X generation. I think that every society, that the younger people have to in some way go against their parents. If their parents were hippies, they become conservative. If their parents were conservative, they become hippies. I mean, I think that it's a check and balance in a democracy to keep people evolving and to keep things changing. So that's a healthy thing to me. When it's not apparent what it is, it gets a little cloudy to me. I think that's scarier than having something obviously rebelling against the society. I find that healthier.
I understand. Something more unexpected. How do you see the 90s with comparison, for instance, with the 60s?
Well, I live in Los Angeles, and I live in Venice, California, which is a gang-ridden area. And the corner of my block, in the last 15 weeks, 17 people have been murdered. So there's a gang war going on that's become almost it's become a race war now between the Mexicans and the blacks where I live. So it's a very dangerous place. And
dangerous neighborhood, yeah.
Dangerous neighborhood. And, I mean, it doesn't affect me. I live in a big corrugated metal building, and I have only skylights. But it's like living in a prison. I mean, that's the way it appears from the outside. On the inside, I have a wonderful existence. However, going in and out of my alley and driving into my gated area, it's a little tense at times.
Artistic manifestation against the establishment or against the values. Do you see this nowadays?
Well, I made a film some years ago called Colors, which was dealt with the gang violence and so on. At that time, the police in Los Angeles insisted there was no problem. There were just 450 kids in their teens being murdered every year, but it wasn't a problem. They thought they could control it. I see a lot of things in the society that there should be films about, if that's what we're talking. I mean,
when you did Colors, you wanted to talk about gangs. Why do you think Colors had such a big reaction?
Why do I think it had? Because I think it's the same. I think anytime you show something that hasn't been shown, you get people seeing it. I mean, Colors did $50 million theatrically in the United States. That's a major hit. Especially, I think we made it for $8 million or something. So if it's just theatrically making that kind of money, that means that people wanted to see it because there was something happening in it. And a lot of these people were like the gang kids themselves that went to this movie.
But did you feel any pressure, any kind of censorship when you did the movie?
Well, the Los Angeles police chief tried to stop it from being shown, and there were votes. The city council tried to stop it from being shown in Los Angeles. It passed by only one vote. It would have eventually been shown, but they tried to shelve it, saying that I'd named the Crips and Bloods as actually two gang names, and they didn't want that exposed to the public, and that I was glorifying the gangs. And when in point of fact, I was really telling a police story. I was telling the story from the point of two police officers, the Sean Penn and Robert Duvall characters were the protagonists and the heroes of the piece, not the gang kids, even though I was talking their language. I think a good director is the same animal. You know, Jan de Bont, who did Speed, the film that's going on. This is his first directorial job. He's been a cinematographer. He did Die Hard and so on. But he has the same qualities as Francis and Wim Wenders and David Lynch, and that is that they set up an ambiance for actors. They explain their point of view of the story and what they feel and why you're in this picture. And then they have a visual sense of how it's going to look and how they're going to shoot it. And then they give you a space to play in, and they allow you to create your role. And they step back and let you do your work. And that seems to be consistent with all the really good directors that I work with.
For instance, in Speed, you play a psycho. Actually, you almost always, you've been played lots of psychos and very problematic characters. Why do you choose them?
Well, I don't really choose them. They choose me.
Why?
Well, I've rationalized it by saying when I was a young actor at Warner Brothers, when I was a kid, I refused to star in a TV series. So to have my own TV series, because I didn't think any actors would come out of those series, even though Steve McQueen did and James Garner, and some came out of series. I felt that most of them would never become film actors. So I refused to do a series. So they put me in as the guest stars, and the guest stars were usually psychotics, gunfighters, or they killed their parents or whatever. So I started playing those roles when I was in my early 20s, in my teens and early 20s actually, and I was good at them. Well, I enjoy acting, you know, and you know, basically I was trained from the time I was 13 to 18 years old. I was doing Shakespeare, so a lot of the characters in Shakespeare are villains.
Yeah, sure.
And a lot of the great parts are villains. And a lot of them are very insane people. Hamlet's a very insane character. King Lear is a very mad person. But these are great acting roles. So I don't think of them as any kind of personal like thing. I think of them as acting and as work and how well I can play them because I'm dedicated to being an actor. That's what I do and it's what I love, and I've never lost that love and appreciation.
And like many of your characters, you also used to live on the edge. So you really know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, I lived a pretty crazy life, pretty crazy existence. A lot of that had to do with alcohol and drugs and the roller coaster ride that those will take you on. I thought that I was doing those because I was an artist and that you needed that to create. But in point of fact, I see an actress like Meryl Streep do wonderful, wonderful performances, and she certainly has never used drugs and alcohol as a crutch. I see Dustin Hoffman doing wonderful performances who've never used drugs and alcohol as crutches. So this person used them, and my biggest fear when I 12 years ago when I got sober was that I wouldn't be able to act anymore because I'd used alcohol and drugs as stimuli to activate my senses to act. But when I got sober, I did Frank Booth, I did Hoosiers, I've done some memorable performances since that, sober. So I just went back to Lee Strasberg. I had a really good teacher in method acting and sense memory and emotional memory, and it's all there. I think my acting has gotten, it's improving.
Actually, you are also such an interesting person. Your own life, you know, you should do a movie about your story. Have you ever thought about this?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about it. It's like, unfortunately, out of my power to be able to do movies. You know, I mean, you need so much money to make movies that I can't really afford to, like, finance my own films. But I have thought of autobiographical work.
Are you writing a book?
No, I've avoided that.
Why?
Turned that down. I felt that at the time when I was offered a lot of money to write an autobiography, that I wasn't really ready to be honest enough to really talk about the drugs and the things. There are too many people still alive that I felt would be affected by my information, that I couldn't really be honest enough. But maybe someday. I feel I've been very, very fortunate. You know, I mean, Jimmy Dean unfortunately died in an accident, and it was an accident. It wasn't something that he went out to in some suicidal rage or something. The car didn't stop at a stop sign and hit him at dusk and it killed him. But I mean, then you look at Hendrix and you look at Janis Joplin and you look at all the people that drugs took away and alcohol and so on, and cancer, heart attacks. I mean, my God, I'm at an age now that so many of my friends are dead. Yeah, I feel like a survivor. I also feel very, very fortunate that...
What moves you in that direction is freedom?
Well, why did I do it originally? I liked it. I like getting high. I like drinking. You know, it gave me a rush. You know, it made things seemingly easier. Momentarily.
You described a scene that you said, "Oh, I went to hell." You were in the hospital in Mexico, I think, in a small town.
I was in jail in Mexico.
In jail.
Yeah.
But you were alone, and you faced death. Did you really face death? You thought you were about to die?
Oh, I was about to die.
You really were?
I had people having guns in my head, like, saying, you're in Mexico, we can kill you, gringo, blah, 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 blah. And I said, oh, sure, yeah, I've heard all this before. They hung me in a shower and made me drink the water and trying to get me sick so I could vomit. They thought I'd taken some sort, they didn't know what I'd taken. No, it was
why this situation?
Then I attacked all these federales and started punching. I should have been dead, killed, bang, boom, bam. Then I walked out on the wing of an airplane on takeoff from Mexico City. Come on,
it's nothing.
Nothing. I thought I was being filmed. Terrific. Yeah.
Were you afraid?
Well, yeah, I care. Of course I cared. I was trying desperately to stay alive.
You are a person who has a second act in your life.
Yeah, second, third, fourth, fifth.
God gave you a lot of...
He got me, listen, I was too stupid to be able to get any kind of program in my mind through I had to hit the wall a number of times and realize that I wasn't getting up. I had a choice. I was either going to be incarcerated for the rest of my life or I was going to get sober and live in society. There was no other way.
Nothing between.
Nothing in between. And I chose to be out here. I didn't like it in there. And so I'm out here sober. And that's a good deal, period.
But do you like here?
I love it here.
Oh, God, that's great.
I don't like prison.
Does Hollywood love comebacks?
Do they love comebacks? They love everything momentarily, but it all gets old,
Because after all these ups and downs, and being so many years in this business, you really know what it's all about, don't you?
Yeah, I found that it's sort of like picking grapes. You have good seasons and you have bad seasons. Just keep picking the grapes and hope you have a good harvest, and keep doing the work as well as you can, because at the end it's really just the work. They may get tired of you and they may want a new model, but they always need a grape picker again when there's a good harvest.
Do you see all this stuff differently? Were you more naive? Are you more skeptical?
I heard somebody call the 60s the naive generation. And I thought, how is that possible? We thought we were so hip, slick, and cool, and so much way ahead of our time. And I said, how can you be calling this the innocent and naive generation? And they said, because you were all like guinea pigs. You had these ideals which none of you followed through. You had drugs, and you took every drug imaginable. You used yourself like guinea pigs. You threw yourself out like cannon fodder. And yet you changed some things, but nobody ever saw them through because the drugs and the ideals were taken away, took you away. So I find that really strange to call a whole generation naive and innocent.
Do you think were you romantic, sort of romantic heroes, in a way?
We were to ourselves romantic heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, there was great music, great painting, great art, great things happened in the 60s. But unfortunately, the 70s, the aftermath of that, what was the drugs that were free and the things that worked in the 60s and the free love, suddenly there was diseases which were incurable. There were drugs that weren't free anymore, and most of the people either had died from overdosing or were addicted to drugs. So it was a bad hangover and a bad come down.
You've been married 4 times?
I haven't counted recently,
Officially?
but you're probably right.
And are you married now?
No.
No. Would you get married again?
I'm trying not to.
Not to? Why?
Why? Well, my last one was really expensive. And I was only married for 2.5 years. It cost me $2.5 million. I have a beautiful little boy out of it, but it was a nightmare. And That I just can't afford to do that.
The cost is the divorce, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, very expensive indeed.
Very
indeed.
expensive, yeah.
Why so expensive?
Well, you have lawyers, and she has lawyers.
You have one marriage. Michelle Phillips was 8 days marriage.
Yeah.
Was so quick.
Yeah. Well, we had to rest on the 8th day, you know. God created the world in 6, and then the 7th day we worked the whole 7 days, and then the 8th day we decided to take a rest.
Why do you think a relationship doesn't work? When it doesn't work, what is the reason?
Well, Michelle and I are still friends, I might add.
Good.
Okay. Michelle was a singer with the Mamas and the Papas. And, why does it work and why doesn't it work?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Time, lack of talking. What is, you know?
Hopper, the marriage counselor.
After,
well,
yeah,
I mean,
after all these years, something you had learned.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be good, yeah. Alex tell you why. Yeah. No, I don't know. I think that it's really important that people be friends, I think, whether they're married or not married. Yeah. And that friendship more than the love is an important thing. And the respect for each other.
If you had